Hello, welcome to my DPS950 Project 1 video report. My name is Ila Gurevich, and today, using the Microsoft Azure services, I will be demonstrating my deployment of a network topology that consists of a domain controller virtual machine, a web server virtual machine, and a client virtual machine. So in this instance of my deployment, the domain controller, web server, and client machines will exist segregated on their own virtual networks, and both the client machine and the web server will be connected to the domain hosted by the domain controller. And once I've demonstrated that these machines have joined the domain, I'll be able to demonstrate on the client machine that it can access the web page by the website and the web server using its FQDN. That being said, let's get started. So first, I'm going to demonstrate the machines that have been created. So here in my virtual machines, as you can see, I have three VMs. I have the client-VM, DC-VM, and web server-VM. So my client VM, we can see here that it has the private IP of 10.204. On the domain controller one, we have 10.004. And on our web server VM, we have 10.104. So as we can see here, based off their IP address, they're on separate networks, but we can also see underneath in the virtual network subnet that they belong to different virtual networks. So I can list them actually here. Virtual networks. I've created 3 for each machine, VNet 1, VNet 2, and VNet 3. So VNet 1 under 10.000/16 belongs to the domain controller. VNet 2 for 10.100/16 is for the web server, and VNet 3 is 10.200/16, which is for the client. So now that I've demonstrated that they are on separate networks, I'm also going to show you how I managed to get them to communicate with one another. So on peering, what we can do here, we can actually specify which networks that we've created that the specified network can communicate with. So for example, if I go on VMnet 1 or VNet 1, and I specify here VNet 1 to VNet 2, actually I'll do it like this. I'll make a creation example. So I'll add one. So I'll do something like VNet 1 to VNet 2. Now specify here the opposite end. We'll do VNet 2 to VNet 1. And you specify which network you want this specific one to communicate with. So in this case, for example, if I'm VNet 1, I can pick VNet 2, and it would allow all the traffic to go through. But I already did that, so there's no point in me recreating it again. Once I've created this, it will actually copy the settings and paste and add it to the other end on the other network. So that, for example, if it's VNet 1 communicating with VNet 2, on VNet 2, it will be VNet 2 communicating with VNet 1. And I did the same thing to make sure that VNet 2 and VNet 3 are able to communicate by adding another network peering option for VNet 2 to VNet 3. So now that's the case that's been demonstrated. I'll actually sign in and show how my web page has been set up on my web server. So to do that, I used one of the RDP files that were given in order to access these machines remotely. So we're going to sign into the web server one. So here I already signed in as of the admin accounts created for the domain. So we already show an early sign that it's working, but I will first demonstrate that the web server is working properly. So here, if we go into when your IIS server has been installed on your server, in order to change the default web page, you go to C drive, inetpub, www-root, and you can change the default web page or default HTML file called IIS start. So we can open with here, and we can see here I renamed to be Igorevich's Windows Server, so I know this is properly configured. So we'll actually go here, and before I do anything, I'll do PowerShell to just quickly show that I am under the VNet 2 subnet. I can communicate with the other machines, such as the domain controller and the client. I can also do net user slash domain slash. There you go. And we can see that I'm actually part of this domain that I've joined, or this domain controller that I joined, and this is the specific user that I'm signed in as. There you go. So let us exit. We'll go here. We can do either by IP address lookup, which will show our web page with our new default name, or we can do by FQDN, which will show the same thing. So we know what works now. So now we're going to demonstrate it on the client machine side and see if we can access this through the FQDN. So we'll now sign in through our client. And we're going to use the regular user that we've created. So I already specified the user will be under the Igorevich domain / Igorevich. We'll give it the password. So we'll do a quick test here again. See, we're in the third virtual network. We can still ping the controller and our web server. We do net user domain. Shows that we've connected to the domain controller. We can also do net user / oops. Oh, a mistake. Group / main. And these are all the groups that this user's been signed in as, or part of the domain. So now we can go into our browser and we can actually look up the websites or the web servers, IIS servers web page. So we can go to either the IP address, which will give us again our default page, or we can do the FQDN. So in this case, it would be the name of the computer name of the web server and the full domain name that I've set up. And we can see here, it's the same one. So we know it's working. So now that that is demonstrated, I'll now sign in on my domain controller. And I'll do it as my administrator user. And I'll show that my domain controller name is actually, so, oh, my mistake. So if I go into tools and I go into DNS, if I go in here for lookup, my domain controller is under the name igorevich.dps950.com. That's our domain name. And here in the reverse lookup, it's using my IP address of 10.004 for the pointer. And to quickly demonstrate how to do that, all I had to do was go back into the forward lookup. I found the name, the host for my domain controller, which in case it would be this. Since it has the IP address of 10.0.4, what I did was right-click it, go to Properties, and I would enable this option where it says Update Associated Pointer Record. And this will automatically update it into the reverse lookup zone that I've created. So now I'll quickly demonstrate that the machines have been joined to this domain, and the users that I've created are part of the domain. That's the correct ones that I've been signing in as. So if I go into the Active Directory Administrative Center, I can go into Computers, and I can see that both my client VM machine and my web server machine are here. And we can see here even, we know these are the ones because their OSs are being detected. For instance, our web server is Web Server 2019 Data Center, and our client machine is Windows 10. We can also go into our users folder and see the user I've created. Here I've created both Igorevich, which is my student ID, which is just a regular user. Right here, he's just part of the domain users group. And our domain igorevich.admin, which is our domain administrator account. Right here. So that is all I have to show for my demonstration. I hope you enjoyed my video and have a great day.